And a very good morning to you, Grenada and the rest of the world. Today happens to be the 11th day of April 2019. I'm George Grant. Welcome to today's edition of Gudday Grenada. Nice looking morning here on the Spice Isle. And as always, got a handful for you. Let's take a look at the rundown. We're going to begin with the latest update on oil and gas exploration in Grenada. See that in the Senate this past week. Some questions were asked and answered, and we'll leave it up to you. Something else we're going to be taking a look at this morning is the question: who's telling the truth, Grenada or Jamaica? Think about that one for a moment, and we'll provide you with some information to help you make a decision and provide an answer to that question. Then, of course, we do have the national report for you. And yeah, it's a Thursday morning, so saddle up, pilgrims. Mr. Bierzynski is on his way. He's not coming in here personally, but he's going to be joining us electronically via Zoom. All right? So, let's get started with the first little segment here. At last week's sitting of the Senate, government was asked 3 pertinent questions about the oil and gas exploration agreement. I would like you to listen carefully and decide whether or not the responses were satisfactory. Here we go.
Yes, well, Mr. President, I am reminded that, Mr. President, question 2. Part A, would the leader of government's business inform the Senate on the terms of the current oil and gas exploration arrangement or contract with Global Petroleum Group and or any other partner involved with oil and gas exploration in Grenada's waters? Part B to the same question, question 2. What economic benefits does Grenada stand to gain from the current oil and gas exploration arrangement or contract with GPG and or any other entity? Part C, would Grenada be compensated for loss and or damage to the environment and marine life arising from any event connected with the ongoing exploration?
Senator Steen.
So, Mr. President, in response to Part A, the Global Petroleum Group GPG has a 20-year development license to develop 4 blocks in Grenadian waters. GPG has partnered with a Chinese company, Guangdu, to make the $2 billion US dollar investment required to extract the petroleum in the subsea areas and sell to the national gas company NGC of Trinidad and Tobago, which necessitates the construction of a pipeline between the point of extraction, Nutmeg 2, in the Grenadian waters to an existing platform in Trinidadian waters. Over the period of the license, all viable wells in the 4 blocks already identified will be developed. Viability depends on, among other things, on the world price of petroleum products at that point in time. Seismic surveys are also being undertaken in another 4 blocks. This will lead to exploration and possible development based on the results of the survey. In response to B, the economic benefits, Mr. President, at this early stage in the exploration process, with the need for significant production and development investment, and subject to the price of oil and gas rising to acceptable levels on the world market to assure commercial viability, it is not possible to quantify the specific benefits that will be derived. Caution must, therefore, be used at this time in making forward predictions. However, it is anticipated that with favourable geological, seismic and commercial conditions, Grenada stands to gain significantly from the returns and reinvestment in the areas of agriculture, especially value added as government will be able to invest in plants and equipment, ICT technology, bringing jobs to our youthful population, reductions in the price of electricity, energy, that will spur foreign direct investment and economic growth, and more opportunities in education for our people. In response to C, would Grenada be compensated for loss or damage to the environment, etc.? The Petroleum and National Gas Deposit Act and regulations under which exploration and development take place makes provision for the insurance against accidents and sets the standard for environmentally sensitive operations. The insurance must be to the satisfaction of the state and meet international standards. Ends the responses, Mr. President.
Based on the response we got, so there was a previous contract with GPG. I would just like to know if it's the same contract or if it's a different contract. And Mr. President, in Part B, Part B of question 2.
Well, let's just take Part A first and give the Leader of Government Business an opportunity to respond.
All I'm in a position to comment on, Mr. President, is the terms of the current agreement. And again, this agreement is a confidential commercial agreement, so it's not an agreement that at this time is in the public domain, and it is not unusual that this is the case. These are commercial negotiations. Grenada is competing with other countries. Guyana have their oil and gas activities ongoing. The issue of from both exploration, production and development is based on commercial sensitivities that either attract investment or do not. So the precise terms of these agreements, as said, at this time where it's still very early in the exploration, production, the development phase, is not subject to public perusal at this time.
Well, there you have it. Are you any better off now than you were about 3 minutes or so ago? I don't know. By the way, that was an excerpt from last week's sitting of the Senate. And, I'm not making any excuses here for the government, but I do understand that there are times when it's not prudent to divulge all the information that may be in an agreement that has been signed, okay? Not making excuses, but it's one of the realities. So from that point of view, I do understand his response, where he was reluctant to divulge information or details about the agreement. However, having said that, I know there's a lot of curiosity for obvious reasons, and I still believe that we, the people, could be provided with more comprehensive answers in our quest for good governance. All right? Before I move on to the next segment, Benedict Cador here says he's not answering the questions. Yeah, Benedict. Big eye, Benedict. Sharon is saying, good morning, everyone. Sharon, thank you so much for that beautiful set that you presented us with yesterday from Florida. Veronica Sandy is saying good morning and sending her blessings as always. Fitzroy Adams is there. Margaret's kind of subdued this morning. Usually she comes on, with a big hello, and she's not this morning. She's kind of subdued. You're okay, Max? I hope so. Peter is checking in from Long Island, and actually the first person to chime in this morning was somebody by the name of Fragrance Emmanuel Bedeau Francis. Now, this is somebody who's been showing up for the last week or so, maybe a little longer. So she's pretty new. I'm assuming it's a she. Fragrance? I'm assuming it's a she. Fragrance, I see that you're first up this morning, so you beat T.F. Richards to it, eh? Well, good girl. Good guy. Whatever. Let's see here. Benedict Cador says the question was, is that a separate contract? That could have been yes or no. Yeah, Benedict. Yeah. Fitzroy says, Did I heard he said agriculture? Maybe he forgot the 2018 budget. Okay, Fitzroy. Okay. Moving right along. Just this past week. Now this one, yeah, you guys are going to have a field day on this one. But I want you to listen very carefully because actually I'm going to be playing two clips back to back. Okay? So listen very carefully to each of these clips. Just this past week, we heard our education minister explaining to the media that the correcting of SBAs is a responsibility of the teachers, and as such, they're not entitled to any additional emoluments. She went as far as to explain how this situation is being handled in Jamaica. Well, yesterday, I received an audio file which was sent to the president of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Lyden Lewis, by the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association. First, I'm going to play Grenada's education minister, immediately followed by the audio clip from the Jamaica Teachers Association. Please listen carefully to both.
Now, in Jamaica, for example, the conversation went like this, that maybe, yes, we can pay you extra, but the cost of doing a CXC subject would increase. Do we want that? In other words, Jamaica was saying we can pass the cost on to the parents. And then, of course, you know what the parents' response would be. But both in the case of Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, consistently all three governments, ministries of education, have said the same thing. The Solicitor General has ruled, the Public Service Commission has ruled in some of those countries that this is viewed as part of the responsibility of a teacher, because in the Education Act it speaks about assessment of students. You won't see SBA there, but it speaks about assessment, all forms of assessment.
Good morning to you, my brother Lyden. I greet you and the teachers of Grenada with all the best wishes. On the issue of payment for SBA marking, in our last heads of agreement, the government indicated that teachers will be paid 300 Jamaican dollars per SBA as at June 2019. In our discussions and negotiations, we argued that SBA is an external examination, not part of the normal workload for teachers. It's extra work, and so teachers should be compensated for this extra work. At no time there was any discussion that the cost for the examination would increase in order to facilitate the payments to teachers. So we are unaware of that situation, and we have a signed agreement with the government of Jamaica that will be in full force as at June 2019. So our prayers are with you and the teachers of Grenada, and you have our full support as you continue your struggle on this important issue. Best wishes.
Alrighty, so there you have it. the two clips from, first of all, the education minister, and then from the president of the Jamaica Association of Teachers. Folks, I have no comment, but I'm sure that you guys will have something to say in just a wee bit as you take a look at the GIS. Right now, let's take our first little break. I see that Mr. Bierzynski has popped up on my monitor off to my right there. He's wearing a regular golf shirt this morning. My favorite colors, gray and light gray. Okay, let's take a little break here and we'll come on back with the GIS.
Boy, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, you can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADA. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis court. And in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium.
Okay. Folks, I have not heard how well the Pump It Up Fun Walk went in Carriacou this past weekend, but I just want to give you a heads up that this coming weekend, in preparation for the Fun Walk here, there's going to be a contingent sitting right here beside me. It's going to be an interesting morning on Sunday. We've now been joined by John. He's apologizing for his late arrival and says, I hope I haven't missed the GIS report. No, you have not missed the GIS report, John. Actually, that's coming your way right now. But I do suggest that after the program's over, you go on back and listen to the entire thing, because we had a couple of clips there earlier on, which I think you would be very interested in responding to. Here comes the GIS.
Detailed inspection of government buildings in need of renovation could begin by month end. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, April 10th, 2019, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. Minister for Infrastructure Development, the Honorable Gregory Bowen, says detailed inspection of government buildings that are in need of revamping and renovation could begin by the end of this month. During an interview with the Government Information Service, Minister Bowen said a committee is already in place as they prepare to deal with this matter, but they will have to prioritize because of the costs that can be involved. 2 years ago, government revamped the Physical Development Authority Act, which mandates that buildings in certain areas should be at a particular standard. The act also gives the state the authority to remove buildings that are deemed a threat to life and property.
With respect to the government-owned buildings, we are embarking on a program to revamp those, renovate them, because we are renting now. Two things will happen. When we revamp our buildings, refurbish them, rehabilitate them, then we can move from the rented premises into our own buildings. And then we have buildings in certain areas that the private sector, they want to simply rent from us. So we also have these in our site, and we can repair them and rent them out to the private sector, or we can let the private sector take them as is, repair them and use them. There'll be an income to the state, and at the same time we'll be making the aesthetics of our lands and our towns very beautiful.
While his ministry can point to successes in a number of areas, Health Minister the Honourable Nicholas Steele says the work has just begun because there is now need to address matters like additional staffing and an improvement of services. During the government's weekly post-cabinet briefing on Tuesday, Minister Steele said their desire to meet the needs of the public is not about the money, but more so the need to go further with the quality of service offered.
Pediatrics is one of our strongest departments nationwide, but in the general hospital in particular. And I compliment the team that's there, that department that's there. But we don't stop there just by it being our strongest department. We received equipment on Friday from the Russian Federation, and we are still going to go further to strengthen our neonatal department. We are now able to deal with premature babies who are 28 weeks, and there is a survival chance for them, which didn't exist before. But again, we're not going to stop there. We are going to further our discussions and our improvements and recognize that there's still more to do. In surgery, we have strengthened our surgical department by now having an additional neurosurgeon here in the form of Dr. Nilo from Cuba. And we have a world-class, world-renowned pediatric surgeon that's here. Come to Grenada as well, to live in Grenada. But we're not going to stop there. There's still more. And that's not about the money.
Minister Steele assured that in their quest to offer better service to the public, they will address the shortage of nurses.
We recognize that because we as a people are such a friendly people, and our nurses have had a reputation of being good since the 70s, and that there is a worldwide shortage of nurses, that some of our nurses are moving on to what, in their opinion, is greener pastures. And we welcome that. So it means that while we have started our SGU training of nurses, we now have to deal with training additional nurses, because some of our nurses, in their own right, are leaving to go elsewhere, because we have our own challenges as a developing nation with salaries throughout. But it's not just about the money. We have to go further with the level of services and the quality of conditions that our nurses operate in at the general hospital as well, and in all of our healthcare, primary healthcare facilities.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The eyes of the world are on us more than ever. So let's take it to them. Saturday, May 4th, the Spice Mass Corporation launches Spice Mass 2019. The Caribbean's biggest summer festival. This year's launch starts with a roadshow from Ariza Car Park to the National Stadium from 3 p.m. Bring out your last year's costume and join the parade. It's one big experience with the display of fancy man, traditional man, Moko Jambi, and the most envied Jab Jab. The official opening is at the National Stadium, featuring your favorite soca artists and DJ, Calypso Monarch, Still Pan champions, and presentations of the 2019 Carnival Queen contestants, plus displays of 2019 costumes, SMC show tickets, and other attractions to be won. Saturday, May 4th, the National Stadium, the launch of Spice Mass 2019. Bring out the entire family. Log on to SpiceMassGrenada.com for more.
Continuing the news, the government of Grenada has announced the appointment of Ms. Dia C. Forrester as the country's new Solicitor General effective April 8, 2019. Ms. Forrester has 11 years of experience as an attorney at law, having worked in Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Anguilla. Her areas of practice include banking and finance law, commercial and civil litigation, taxation, insolvency, and intellectual property law. Ms. Forrester holds a Master of Laws degrees in International Banking and Finance Law from University College London, a Legal Education Certificate of Merit from the Hugh Wooding Law School, and a Bachelor of Laws degree with honours from the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus. As Solicitor General, Ms. Forrester is responsible for the conduct of civil litigation involving the state, any department, ministry or agency of the state, and the supervision of senior Crown Counsel and Crown Counsel in the Attorney General's chambers. Grenada's ambassador to the United States, Ms. Yolan Smith, this week presented her credentials to U.S. President Mr. Donald Trump. In discussion with President Trump, Ambassador Smith said Grenada continues to enjoy steady progress in human and economic development. Citing the long, friendly and harmonious ties between Grenada and the United States as the platform for mutually beneficial bilateral relations, the Grenadian ambassador expressed optimism for expanded engagement between the two countries. She also conveyed Grenada's gratitude for past and ongoing U.S. assistance. Ambassador Smith said, and I quote, "As a developing country and one which sits on the shores of a vulnerable Caribbean region that is susceptible to natural disasters such as hurricanes, droughts, and climate change, Grenada continues to be grateful to its partners. Accordingly, we welcome and appreciate the U.S. Southern Command's most recent initiative to help in the building of a headquarters for our National Disaster Management Agency," unquote. Referencing a strong and productive partnership with Grenada that dates back to 1974, President Trump said the United States continues to engage Grenada and other Caribbean islands in the areas of security, diplomacy, prosperity, energy, education, and health. He gave assurances of continued engagement through the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative. He said, and I quote, "It is my hope that together we will work to facilitate trade, create favorable business and investment climates, and invest in human capital so citizens can contribute to the development of their communities," unquote. Grenada's ambassador to the United States was one of 11 diplomats who presented their credentials to the U.S. President this week. And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
I find you guys are really quiet there this morning. I only see a couple of comments coming out of the GIS. First of all, Peter Bishop is saying, "Good move, Minister Bowen. So I assume that the library and the old Parliament buildings will be the first two buildings to benefit." Kipling says, "It's time the people start taking some blame for constantly electing these self-serving representatives, although not the last election. You elect them to represent you, and they become your master and think that they know what's best for you, while they enrich themselves. Time to start thinking." Carla is also joining. Carla is calling you guys peeps. She's saying good morning to her peeps. And there's a little note here from Margaret regarding the piece we did about the SBAs and the minister as well as the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association. Margaret says, Granted that all the governments have said it is the teacher's responsibility. The reality is starkly different, and the minister should have checked her facts before sticking her foot in her mouth. George, you will recall that we pointed out that the Jamaican teachers were going to get the $300 and that the TNT teachers have taken the government to court. Thanks, Mags. Okay, folks, he's there. I'm just going to give you a quick look. Take a look at that man. You know that man? See what I mean? He's in gray and gray this morning. Smile, Mr. Bierzynski. Smile. There he goes. He's smiling. So we know for a fact that at least he is hearing us. Folks, let's take a break. We'll come back with Alan.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Spice Island.
GRENLEC, energizing our Grenada.
Conveniently located in the Grand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair granadas will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Alrighty, folks, it's a Thursday morning, so let's take a ride up to Montgelou and say good morning to Mr. Bierzynski. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm well. Is the sound level okay?
Yeah, you're loud and clear, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, this is the time when the intellectuals all over are coming out of the woodwork. And my attention was drawn to an article I saw recently by a non-resident Anguillan, Mr. Hodge, who was writing about the imposition of metropolitan rule on certain of the Dutch islands.
Yes.
Dutch islands.
Mm-hmm.
But he also made reference to the fact that there had been an Anguillan revolution, and suggested that his father had been part of that particular event. Now, I take issue with any reference to Anguillan revolution for the simple reason that up until 1967, the state of St. Christopher, Nevis, and Anguilla, along with Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, constituted territories which were still crown colonies of the British Empire. I think they still had an empire. But in 1967, as constitutional developments were taking place, when we moved towards internal self-government, and Britain was then responsible for external affairs and defense, we became West Indies Associated States. That is, states in association with Britain. At that time, the premier of, well, first of all, the chief minister, he became premier after the constitutional advancement to associated state. But Chief Minister Bradshaw of St. Kitts was similar to the Chief Minister in St. Vincent, similar to the Chief Minister in Grenada, who at that time was one Herbert Augustus Blaze, by the way. And a politician in Anguilla, Ronald Webster, he subsequently was knighted by the Queen for his services, whether to Anguilla or to the Queen, I've never figured out. But nevertheless, Mr. Webster led a rebellion against the sovereignty of Chief Minister Bradshaw in St. Christopher and Nevis. And so representation was made to the British government that Anguilla should be separated from St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla. Now, in terms of size, you might consider if Petit Martinique decided to declare itself independent of the state of Grenada. But nevertheless, I remember on the cover of Time magazine, probably in August of 1967, there was a very interesting photograph of a British police officer. He had been sent down from London, and he was on the beach in Anguilla with his trousers rolled up and his helmet on, his shirt sleeves. And the headline was, Britain's Bay of Piglets. I've never forgotten it. The power of a headline. So when Mr. Hodge, and because Anguilla is so small, apart from Mr. Webster, if you look in the phone book, you will probably find the family names such as Lake, Richardson, Gomes, and Hodge. I'm not sure that there are too many others. So this is why Anguilla, like many small islands, many colonies, they have produced very outstanding individuals who have emigrated because they've made their livelihoods outside of Anguilla. Because you have the colonial administration, and it is important to Britain because of, one, its location, and two, being an outpost of the empire, they can engage in the provision of financial services to wealthy individuals who do not wish their transactions to be subject to the normal scrutiny of taxation authorities. They're a tax haven. That is why they are able, even though they are part of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, to have the US dollar freely as a medium of exchange. That is why, because of their location, and I've done the trip myself in a ferry, which really is a glorified fishing boat, 20 minutes and you are in France. That is Saint Martin, the northern half of the island shared with Saint Martin, the Dutch part of it. Now, I don't know which people in St. Martin, either the French or the Dutch side, are complaining about imperialism. And certainly, the Anguillans that I have met are very pleased about their location because they can in fact do grocery shopping in St. Martin and have a much wider range of goods and services available to them, including the Princess Juliana Airport, which brings them straight into Europe. So when I hear transplanted Anguillan talking about colonialism and the strictures of this having to comply with European regulations and laws and standards, it gives me pause. Because the reality is that if you want to leave, it's a lot easier for you to leave Anguilla than for us to leave Grenada. So I frankly don't have too much sympathy with you. Now, this article having been published, I'm not saying on whose website or where it was available to be read, I then saw certain comments being made. And there was something agreeing about, yes, look at what the Dutch are doing, and they want to reimpose colonialism and this and that. The reality is that the Dutch territories, the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, in the Western Caribbean, and then you have the smaller territories in St. Martin, St. Eustatius, and Saba, all around the St. Kitts area. They have had the opportunity, and I want somebody to correct me, they have had the democratic opportunity to choose self-governing status or independence. And I believe that many years ago, Aruba chose independent status. In other words, Aruba separated from Bonaire and Curacao. I believe that Curacao perhaps has the distinction of having a politician. I can't recall whether he was leader of the opposition or what. He was gunned down in a drive-by shooting. This tells you the type of politics that they have there. And during a period of time when they were responsible for their internal affairs, they bankrupted the government. And as a result, they went cap in hand begging the Netherlands to bail them out. Now, my friends, if you cannot manage your internal affairs, you don't deserve independence. We have seen what happens to independent territories who do not manage their internal affairs. You end up in the clutches of the IMF or the Russians.
Would that include Grenada?
The Chinese.
Would that include Grenada, sir?
I'm not being specific, George. I will not rise to your bait. Your bait is not attractive enough. So I am generalizing, and that is why I said I'm dealing with what the article started off with. But what did the article lead to? Certain comments along the lines of, yes, these colonialists, these metropolitans and so forth, they want to impose unbiblical policies. And that gave me pause for thought. Unbiblical? Really? I was under the impression that we struggled, in quotation marks, for our independence to establish the rule of law, completely separate from the rule of God. And I will give you suggestions that if you find it appropriate or desirable to live in countries where there is the rule of God only, as opposed to leaving God to his people and leaving the secular society to a constitution, then I can recommend you attempting to go to live in the southern United States, particularly Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas, wherein the rule of God seems to be challenging the Constitution all the time, because using biblical principles, a woman is a mere chattel, and there is recognition of the condition of bondage I'm not going to say slavery because they fought a civil war in the United States to free the slaves. Well, 100 plus years on, 150 years on, they're still fighting in the Supreme Court for rights because it would appear that biblical principles are being brought to the fore to establish that the descendants of slaves are not equal, because it appears that the Bible accepts that women are not equal to men. And it accepts that there is a condition of serfdom, call it bondage, and that he who is born of a bondswoman cannot expect to inherit as that of a freeborn. And this supremacy of the male, which is promoted by scriptures, whether of the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, or the Islamic faith, is one of the major points of conflict in the world today. The right-wing extremists in Israel have supported a corrupt politician who has just won his 5th term in office. A corrupt politician who has just won his 5th term in office. I hope no others are seeking to establish that kind of record. Now, it is the right-wing extremists who will ensure that the Islamic extremists and themselves will make it impossible for peace in the Middle East to ever happen in our time. Extremists must be recognized, they must be exposed. Let Caesar get what is Caesar's, and God will look after his people. We live in a secular state, and if you don't like it, any of you, please feel free to move to Brunei. The Sultan there has just introduced Sharia law. And if you don't like adultery, fornication, and homosexuality, that's a good place for you to live, because any offenders will be put to death by stoning. You can't get more biblical than that. Done.
Kipling says, it's always so refreshing listening to Mr. A.B. So much to learn. Plain speaking. Simple, understandable words. Thank you, sir, for your free gift of knowledge.
And it's all on the internet.
AB, there was a debate going this week as to whether or not your great buffoon friend, Mr. Trump, will be re-elected. And I was a little bit taken aback at how many people do believe that he will be. What say you, sir?
Nothing will surprise me, for the simple reason that the same people who profess to be Christians in the southern United States, in large numbers, support Trump because they recognize in his slogan, "Make America Great Again," that he wishes to reintroduce the times and the conditions which kept women and minorities subservient. And they will vote for that regardless of what is disclosed about that disgusting individual, that buffoon.
Wayne Peters says, good talk. Margaret says, Alan, you are quite right about religion being the root of the world's major problems today. Sad, though, when it really should be doing the opposite.
Yep, we should be looking at the route to salvation instead of destruction.
Yeah. All right, sir. Anything else you want to add?
Have a great day.
No, you don't have. I'm not chasing you away, Mr. Bierzynski. I wouldn't do such a thing. I just wanted to find out if...
I thought you would have figured out that given the quality of my attire, that I have somewhere to go and something to do.
Yeah. I was just being deliberately ignorant. A.B., enjoy your day, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. And I guess we'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye now.
Right. Have a nice day. All right. Mr. Bierzynski there. Effervescent, as usual. Thank you, Alan. We're going to take another little break here, and we'll come on back after this.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts, and in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton Home.
Welcome home.
Boy, you, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming.
Karim, what you doing? Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, it can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADA. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
I'm sure many of you remember that as kids growing up, we were taught that when you borrow, you must pay back. Well, yesterday morning we borrowed about 8 minutes from you. Went about 8 minutes over time. And today we're going to give you back at least a little bit of that, maybe about 4 or 5 minutes or so. But first I want to remind you guys that this evening, or this afternoon, at 4 o'clock, this week's edition of Woke. That's the forum where we have a group of youngsters come in here and spend some time sharing their dreams and their aspirations for Grenada. And this is the 5th edition of that program. We began about 5 weeks ago. And it's been quite well received. So I want you to hear what these kids have to say. They're determined to make a difference. Anthony DeRigg says, George, I did not know that the big public library in St. George was closed. Yes, Anthony, it's been closed for a long time. That is one of the places I wanted to visit while I was in Grenada. A library has its own atmosphere. Well, Anthony, it seems like for some reason we just didn't recognize that. As far as the court system in Grenada is concerned, from what I've been picking up this week, things have come to a screeching halt. It doesn't seem like anything is happening to advance the state of our courtrooms, our court system here in Grenada. That's something we're going to get to very shortly, I do hope. Time to scoot. Let me give you an assignment. I have an assignment for you folks. It comes in the form of today's inspirational words. Hold on. Margaret Francis says, "That has been closed for ages. I know that some folks, Camus, McBonnet, and all, were trying to do something about it. Not sure what the status is." Margaret, probably because there ain't no status, girl. Nothing. Today's inspirational word from the book of Acts. Acts chapter 26, 17, 18, and 19. And like I said, it's an assignment for you. "I will rescue you from your own people and from the Gentiles. I am sending you to them to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me." That reading once again, Acts 26, 17 to 19. Okay, you guys kind of quiet this morning, but I do appreciate your presence as always. By God's grace, we'll be back tomorrow morning for another edition, final edition for the week of Gudday Grenada. And of course, invitation to join us on Sunday morning for the next edition of Sundays with George Grant. In the meantime, go forth to love and serve the Lord your God. So long.